Dear students, today we are going to learn about this poem called The Legend of Northland. Okay, this poem is written by Phoebe Carey, okay, and she is an American poet. She was born on 4th of September 1824 and she died on the 31st of July 1871. So she lived for 47 years. Okay. Now this poem, A Legend of the Northland, please remember children, it is a ballad. Okay. Now a ballad is a song. Okay. It's a song narrating a story in short stanzas. They are a part of folk culture, or we can also say popular culture, and are passed on orally, okay, from one generation to the next. Now, the next thing we have to know is legend and Northland. Now, you all must be knowing that legend, what it means, legend. Legend is a traditional story, okay, something popularly regarded as historical. Okay, some people feel that it's there in the history also, but there is no guarantee that these stories are true. So there is no authentication. Okay, यो लेजेन्डलाई नै अरु नामहरु चाहिँ हामी जस्तो myth भन्छ हैन, myth, saga, these are all synonyms for legend. All right. Now, Northland. Northland, basically, in this poem, it could be referring to countries that are in the North Polar region. Okay, Northern Hemisphere को northern part पटी near the poles, North Pole को छाउतिर जस्तो कि Greenland भयो, Norway है, Norway, अनि त्यहाँदेखिको even the extreme northern part of Canada and Russia, they all fall into this category. Okay, ani so the poem A Legend of the Northland. Okay, let's continue to learn about it. Now here I'm going to do stanza by stanza. We're going to just go through this poem. Okay, now in the very beginning only यहाँ भनेको छ that this poem narrates the legend of an old lady who angered Saint Peter because of her greed. Now what you should know, अब थुप्रो जनालाई we should have this context, यो background थाहा हुनुपर्छ है. Saint Peter चाहिँ basically Jesus Christ को one of his apostles or one of his disciples लाई चाहिँ Peter है, अनि उहाँलाई Saint Peter भनेर जानिन्छ. Okay, so that you should know. So away, first stanza मा यहाँ, away in the Northland where the hours of the days are few and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. Right? So your first stanza ma यहाँ के गरेको छ, we just see, we find that there's a description of Northland. Okay, Northland चाहिँ कस्तो छ भने, so यहाँ हेर्नुस् है, where hours away टाढो छ है, away where the hours of the day are few. So तपाईलाई याद geographically तपाईलाई थाहा भएकै कुरा होला कि on the northern pole को त्यो साइड तिर के हुन्छ, दिन चाहिँ कस्तो हुन्छ, दिन चाहिँ छोटो हुन्छ, रात चाहिँ लामो हुन्छ हैन, and especially during winters जन हैन, and the nights are so long in winters that they cannot sleep them through. सुतेर पनि सुतिन नसक्नेहरूले यति लामो हुन्छ भन्छ रात हैन. So this is the description of the Northland, okay, in the first stanza. Here in the second stanza what we see is that यो second stanza मा चाहिँ अब यो Northland को मान्छेहरुको description छ. Okay, describes the inhabitants of or the people of this place. यहाँ के भनेको छ, where they harness the swift reindeer to the sledges when it snows, and the children look like bear cubs in their funny furry clothes. Okay. So children look like bear cubs भनेको छ, अन्त उनीहरूले रेनडियरहरूलाई हार्नेस गर्छ भनेर, अनि लुगा कस्तो लाउँछ अरे, फनी फरी क्लोथ्स. भेरी मच तपाईँले एस्किमोको नानीहरू पनि देखेको छैन, एस्किमोको त्यस्तै टाइपको है, एन्ड एनिमल फरको हुन्छ मोस्ट अफ द टाइम दोज क्लोथ्स द्याट किप देम रियली वार्म. ओके, and children look like bear cubs. यहाँनिर चिल्ड्रनहरूलाई बेयर कब्स बेयरको नानीसँग कम्पेयर गरेको छ. सो वी सी द्याट यो लाइक लागेकोले गर्दा इट्स अ सिमिली. ओके, यहाँनिर सिमिलीको पनि युज भएको छ. Now funny furry clothes, we've again done about this literary device of alliteration, right? So funny funny, f for funny, f for funny, f हैन, f को sound for furry. So funny furry clothes, this is another literary device of alliteration. Okay, then in stanza 3 what we see is that they tell them a curious story. I don't believe 'tis true, and yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you. भनेर सो पोएटले यसो हुन्छ एज इफ यो पोम चाहिँ यसो सुन्दाखेरि एज इफ द पोएट इज टकिङ टु मी डाइरेक्टली, कसले मसँग गफ गरेको जस्तो है. सो यहाँ भनेको छ इन द थर्ड स्टान्जा यहाँनिर क्युरियस स्टोरी भनेर भनेको छ. एन्ड यो हामीले सुन्यो भने चाहिँ इफ आई टेल यु दिस टेल एन्ड इफ आई टेल यु दिस स्टोरी यु मे लर्न अ लेसन भनेर. सो इन स्टान्जा 3 यहाँ के भएको छ, मेन सब्जेक्ट, यो पोमको मेन सब्जेक्ट, मेन कोही के छ कुरा, त्यसलाई यहाँनिर इट हेज बिन put across, right? That means that if you listen to this you may learn a lesson भनेर. Okay, now stanza 4 मा के भएको छ, stanza 4 मा चाहिँ यहाँ चाहिँ अब story has begun. Okay, अहिलेसम्म चाहिँ it was as if somebody is telling a story and now that story has begun. Okay, so stanza 4, once when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below and walked about it preaching just as it did, you know. So again यहाँनिर now Saint Peter लाई stanza 4 मा Saint Peter लाई introduce गरेको छ है. अघि नै मैले भने Saint Peter चाहिँ Jesus Christ को one of his disciples. Okay, and हुनु त यहाँनिर Saint Peter लाई बेसी इलाबोरेट गरेर Saint Peter को बारेमा attention दिएको छैन उहाँलाई. Okay, but this poem you should keep in mind was written mainly keeping in mind the children. Okay, children. So you know the way it's written is very playful. Okay, मजाले यससँग नानीहरूले इन्जोय गर्ने पाराले लेखेको छ. Okay, so the poet she keeps the mood of the poem playful and as if गफ गरेको जस्तो conversational लाई यस्तो पाराले राखेको छ. Okay, then further in stanza 5 okay, stanza 5, he came to the door of a cottage in traveling round the earth where a little woman was making cakes and baking them on the hearth. Okay, so यहाँनिर अब चाहिँ in this fifth stanza के भएको छ भन्दाखेरि fifth stanza मा we are introduced to this little lady. Okay, this little woman. Okay, यहाँनिर उसलाई describe पनि गरेको छ, somebody with probably she must be very small in stature, अब petite खालको होला. So little woman, and she is described as somebody who was making cakes. Okay, यो भन्दै आएको. So fifth stanza मा what we see is that this lady is introduced. All right, now sixth stanza मा what we see is that and being faint and fasting. So यहाँनिर चाहिँ Saint Peter को how is he, उसको condition लाई यहाँ describe गरेको छ. Okay, and being faint with fasting, for the day was almost done, he asked her from her store of cakes to give him a single one. Okay, you see that? So Saint Peter probably has been traveling about, preaching about the gospel of Jesus Christ and all of that. And he's so bhokai cha, fasting bhanदैछ, उ bhokai cha, and then so he's really tired. He's almost it is a thakeko cha कि he could faint. It's like that. Okay, and he's very hungry and he just wants the little woman to give him a piece of cake. Okay, so this is what we describe. Okay, यहाँ अब हामीले के हेर्नुपर्छ भन्दाखेरि we saw the condition of Saint Peter and यहाँनिर store of cakes भनेर जुन यो phrase use गरेको छ, store of cakes, हामीले चाहिँ यसलाई एकदमै it is also a symbol of worldly possession. जुन हामीले संसारमा सामानहरू थुपार्छ, materialistic हुन्छ, त्यो पनि चाहियो, त्यो पनि थुपार्छ, यो possession आफ्नो भएको यो पोजेसनहरुको यसले पूरा गर्दैछ. Okay, so that is also reflected there. Now in stanza 7 what we see is that what happens now, यो stanza 7 देखि चाहिँ के हाइलाइट गराएको छ पोएटले भन्दाखेरि poet has highlighted from stanza 7 and onwards for certain stanzas, poet has highlighted the selfishness of this woman. Okay, now what we see is that she's already had a store of cakes. That means uskoma already cha possession, uskoma thupro cha khane kuraharu hai. Yet she could have given from that cake of hers, no, jo chahi usko store ma cha, but no, she goes ahead to bake another one. Why? Because she wants to give him a small cake. So okay, so just because she wants to give him a small cake, she goes ahead and bakes completely a new cake. Okay, and so यहाँ चाहिँ के हुँदैछ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ it is reflecting again त्यही possession, materialistic कुराहरूलाई reflect गरेको छ, and how greedy that woman was, how selfish she was भनेर चाहिँ यसलाई यहाँ describe गरेको छ. So okay, let's listen to that. So she made a very little cake. She was a little woman. She made a little cake. Okay, but as it baking lay, she looked at it and thought it seemed too large to give away. You know, see, right? So yeah, she said too large to give away. Give away. That means she doesn't want to share. Okay, it is a greedy cha कि त्यो सानो केक पनि उले ठुलो जस्तो लाग्दैछ when it's time to give away. Okay, then in stanza 8, okay, therefore she needed भनेको आटा हामीले गुन्छ नि, गुन्नु भन्छ नि है. She needed another and still a smaller one, but it looked when she turned it over as large as the first one had done. Okay, so फेरि हेर्नुस् है यहाँनिर फेरि के देखाएको छ, यहाँनिर this stanza presents the lady's attempt, okay, to make a smaller cake. पहिलाको भन्दा अझै सानो, त्यो त ठुलो पो भयो भनेर हैन. So what you see is that she is, see हेर्नुस् है, you must have realized by now that the cake is not growing any bigger. It's not the cake, but what has happened? What has happened to her? It's her perception. उसको सोचाइ, उसको नजरिया नै यस्तो छ, so much, you know, greedy. उसको mind नै greedले यति साह्रो भरेको छ that the mind is playing games with her. Okay, अनि the effect of this greed and selfishness ले चाहिँ के गरेको छ? It has made her thinking, her vision, यति साह्रो small that, you know, everything seems bigger for him, bigger for her. When it comes to sharing, हरेक कुरा ठुलो, ला यत्रो कसरी शेयर गरौँ भनेको जस्तो, everything looks bigger for her than it actually is. हैन? So you must have understood by now कि stanza 7 मा उले जे little cake बनाएको थियो, stanza 8 मा त्यो भन्दा पनि झन् smaller one. Okay, but still उलाई के लाग्दैछ, त्यो केक चाहिँ ठुलो नै लाग्दैछ. Okay, so it is a greedy perception that we are shown over here. Okay, and in stanza 9 what we see is that यहाँ चाहिँ के गर्नु खोजेको छ हेर्नुस् ल. Then she took a tiny scrap, tiny, अब little बाट उ कहाँ पुगेछ, tiny मा पुगेछ हेर्नुस्, a tiny scrap of dough and rolled it flat and baked it thin as a wafer. Wafer है, wafer त्यो टक टक भाँचिने त्यो के, जस्तो कि तपाईले wafer, let's say you're having some chips, American Lay's, that's a wafer. कस्तो हुन्छ पातला हैन, and baked it thin as a wafer, but she couldn't part with that. Imagine that throw सानो चीजसँग पनि she couldn't part with it, she couldn't share it, she was too greedy, right? And yeah, so what we see is that she is now in this stanza 9, this is the third time she's making a cake, and this time, like I said, the cake is really tiny. Okay, so हामीले यहाँ cake त tiny छ, उसको अरु के, she had a little heart, right? Little woman with little, you know, she wanted to make a little cake. हामीले यो सबै के little ले के बुझाउनु हुन्छ कि उसको heart पनि, उसको हृदय पनि कस्तो सानो छ. सानो मन नगर भन्छ नि हैन, सानो मुटु नगर्नु, सानो मन नगर्नु, something like that. Okay, एकदमै कपटी नगर्नु, कन्जुस नगर्नु भनेको जस्तो नि हैन. So what we see is that her heart is also very tiny, okay, as thin as a wafer, okay, and depicts that she was too greedy and selfish, and she just didn't want to share. Okay, and in stanza 10 यहाँ के भन्दैछ, for she said, my cakes that seem too small when I eat of them myself are yet too large to give away. So she put them on the shelf. हेर्नुहोस् है, what happened स्टान्जा 10 मा 7 देखि स्टार्ट भएको हैन उसको यो ग्रिडीनेस को यो जुन झलक छ है, 10 सम्म आउँदाखेरि त उति साह्रो भएछ कि she is also acknowledging कि मैले खाँदा त if I have to eat this cake it would be small for me, you know, but if I have to give it away it seems too large भनेर she is also acknowledging that, you know, something is not right भनेको जस्तो पाराले she is also confused, you see, all right. And then what happens in stanza 11, then now again that story is over, okay, and now we are our attention is brought back to Saint Peter. अनि यहाँ के भनेको छ, we also यहाँ हेर्नुहोस् त स्टान्जा 10 मा हामीले के देख्यो, ऊ यति साह्रो त्यो you know केक, whether the cake is, you know, is it too big or is it too small को त्यो नाप्दा she is completely forgotten about Saint Peter and how hungry he is actually, how badly he needs that little piece of cake, okay. त्यो त्यसको इम्पोर्टेन्स उसकोबाट हटेको छ, and instead this woman ले त completely बिर्सेर त त्यो केक त instead of giving to Saint Peter's she has just put it on the shelf. And looking at this and everything, now Saint Peter got really angry. Okay. So what we see, then good. See, यहाँ purposely हालेको छ good भनेर. Then good Saint Peter grew angry, for he was hungry and faint, and surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. Okay. So these are Saint Peter like यो कुराले चाहिँ it actually made him angry, okay, that, you know, she just, you know, it's as if you know provoke गर्यो यो saint like यो उलाई रिस उठायो, okay. Saint Peter probably, I was thinking of his background, he would have been a very kind and forgiving kind of a person होला नि, तर यति साह्रो ग्रीड यो वुमन को कि this good Saint Peter also grew angry. So तपाईले यसको सिग्निफिकेन्स बुझ्नु पर्छ, okay. So यो सेक्सनमा चाहिँ हामीले एकदमै it has presented before us the essence of materialism, okay. जुन चाहिँ हामीलाई मटेरियलिस्टिक कुराको लोभ हुन्छ, अझै more and more, this is what human beings are becoming, no, greedier and greedier, यो पनि चाहियो त्यो पनि चाहियो, more, yes, चाहियो यो कुरालाई चाहिँ imagine this poet Phoebe Carey हामीले हेर्यो हैन, उसको त कहिले छ early 19th century मा she was born 1824 मा हैन, 1824 and died in 1871. त्यो पुरानो टाइममा पनि ह्युमन त्यस्तो थियो होला र त उले एउटा यस्तो टाइपको पोम लेख्यो हैन. So this is something that human has, it's like this bondage that we are in, okay. अनि so यो कुरालाई हाइलाइट गर्नु भएको छ, okay. And then what happened after Saint Peter got really angry? What did he do? Okay, so stanza 12 ले भन्दैछ, and he said, you are far too selfish to dwell in a human form, right? To have both food and shelter and fire to keep you warm. Alright, हेर्नुस् है अब what is happening. अब यहाँ it's as if the climax है, the build up हुँदैछ. Now what is Saint Peter gonna do? हेर्नुस् है अब the warning is already there. You are far too selfish to dwell in a human form. त्यसमा के गर्छ होला? So that means तिमी मान्छे भएर जिउनु लायककै तिमी छैन भनेको जस्तो, okay? And so what we see is that in this 12th stanza he got so angry, you know, that he's actually thinking of some sort of, you know, punishment for this woman. And यहाँनिर भनेछ you have everything, हेर्नुस् न अब food, shelter and fire to keep you warm. हेर्यो भने त these are the basic necessities of human being, हैन. So we see that she is blessed with the basic you know necessities that human need. Some people don't even have that, but she has it. So she is blessed. Yet you know her heart is too small and she's too greedy just to even part away or even share one slice of cake with Saint Peter, okay. And then this has really got him mad, and then there in stanza 3 we hear it. See, now you shall build as the birds do. Agi ke bhaneko थियो, you are not worthy to dwell as human bhaneko थियो हैन. So then what, you shall build as the birds do and shall get your scanty food by boring all day in the hard, dry wood. यहाँ हेर्नुहोस् ल, यहाँनिर प्लिज अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड, यहाँ बोरिङ भन्दा चाहिँ अल्छी लाग्यो भनेको होइन है ल. बोरिङ भनेको चाहिँ यसरी लिटरली टु डिग के हो, यसरी के हो, यु हेभ टु खोदाल्नु के हो, यसरी डिग गर्नु. ओके, त्यो भनेको. ओके, सो वाट वी सी इज द्याट यहाँ हिन्ट दिएको छ. बाई नाउ यु सुड बी एबल टु गेस. बर्ड्स भन्यो, त्यो बर्ड्सले चाहिँ यस्तो ठोक्ने या फिर डिग गर्ने काम गर्छ. ओके, एन्ड ड्राई हार्ड वुड. कुन चरा होला? Which bird do you think is this? Yeah, whoever guessed woodpecker is correct. Okay, so यहाँनिर हेर्नुहोस् है अब. So by now you must have guessed that there is something coming upon this woman, something bad. Okay, and 14 ले भन्दछ, then up she went through the chimney. हेर्नुहोस् है, up she went, woman त through the chimney, never speaking a word, and out of the top flew a woodpecker, for she was changed to a bird. So what we see here, that's the climax, that Saint Peter got so mad at her, and basically to imagine that a human being can be so greedy and selfish, भनेर Saint Peter यति साह्रो भयो कि that she curses her. उसलाई त श्राप दिँदा she curses her, and so because of that curse, that woman turns into a bird. Which bird? The bird who bores on dry hard wood, which is woodpecker. मा पो उ त चेन्ज भएर चिम्नीबाट पसेर माथि पनि निक्लिँदो रहेछ. Okay, so that's why it's legend भन्दैछ नि. So can you imagine in reality something like this happening to us? Somebody cursed you and you actually sungur भनेर and you actually turn into a pig. That doesn't happen to us, right? So that's why यहाँ legend भन्दैछ. But more than this, please understand, your lesson मा अगाडि नै भनेछ पोएटले, it's you can't you will not believe what I tell you भनेर भनेको छ हैन. But what is more important is the lesson that we will learn from this poem. All right, the lesson that we will learn. So in stanza, now next we'll go to stanza 15. Okay, it's almost over. 16 or a stanza. In stanza 16 we see that she had a scarlet cap on her head, and that was left the same, but as the rest of her clothes were burned black as a coal in the flame. Okay, in the flame. So यो stanza मा चाहिँ यो यो woodpecker lady भनौँ न, this woman woodpecker लाई describe गरेको छ कि that woman had been wearing a hat or some kind of scarf on her head. So त्यो चाहिँ probably त्यो woodpecker को टुप्पामा हुन्छ नि, टाउकोमा अलिकति यस्तो खालको त्यो चाहिँ रह्यो अरे, but the rest of her clothes were burnt भन्दैछ. Okay, and कस्तो अरे, and had become black as a coal. अब यहाँ हेर्नुहोस् है, अघि पनि त्यहाँनिर सिमिली युज गरेको थियो. सिमिली युज गर्दा जहिले पनि केही कुरालाई कम्पेयर गरेको हुन्छ by using like or as. So यहाँ like she is like a flower भनेर हैन, she's like a flower. That doesn't mean she is a flower, but probably she's very delicate and very pretty and very dainty, so like a flower भनेको छ. So black as a coal, कस्तो कालो, as a coal. So that's also again another literary device known as simile. Okay, and then this word flame over here. Okay, यहाँ flame ले चाहिँ हामी के बुझ्न सक्छौं भन्दाखेरि यो flame ले चाहिँ it's symbolic reference to flame of greed. उ यति सारो त्यो greed को flame आगोमा she's there, that उसको heart ने के भएको छ, that's यति सारो greed लाई चाहिँ उले आफ्नो heart मा चाहिँ nurture गरिराखेको छ, पालेर है सम्हालेर लागेछ. that heart has become as black as coal. Okay, so this is what we have to understand. Okay, and I don't think anybody would like to have a heart as black as coal, no. Okay, now that means एकदमै evil type को भइहाल्यो नि है. And in the last stanza, and every country schoolboy has seen her in the wood where she lives in the trees till this very day, boring and boring for food. Okay, okay? Now this last stanza also is very intentional हो यो त्यसै यहाँनिर अचानकमा स्कुल बोय भनेर यो के को एन्डिङ सोच्छ होला तपाईले but this is intentional okay यहाँ पोएटले के गर्नु हुँदैछ हैन यो लास्ट स्टान्जामा now we are out of the story that the poet was narrating and it's as if the poet is directly talking to you and me okay so the poet addresses us readers हामीलाई एड्रेस गर्दैछ अनि यो सबै लाइन्स द्वारा चाहिँ what she is trying to say is यो कुरा चाहिँ हाम्रो लागि एउटा मोरल वार्निङ जस्तो हेर्नुस् ल in every country schoolboy has ever seen in the wood where she lives in the trees till this very day so this poem was written in probably 1800s मा हैन तर आज अहिलेको जमानामा हामीले कति 2021 मा पढिरहेको छ still this poem is significant because still संसारमा and human being मा यो greed भने selfishness भने छ okay हैन so where she lives in trees till this very day so that greed that selfishness that not wanting to share the kapti conjuicy you know that black heart त्यो अर्कालाई राम्रो नगर्ने meanness यो सबै negative traits हरु अझै पनि संसारमा छ people are nurturing it in their hearts we are nurturing it in our hearts है र त्यही भन्नु खोज्दैछ कि it's a warning it's a moral warning okay that यहाँ चाहिँ के भन्नु खोज्दैछ भन्दाखेरि that हामी के छान्ने अब what do we choose the path of this woman and how greedy she was हामी यस्तो हुनु चाहन्छौं कि हामी better हुन चाहन्छौं so again choice in the end is ours okay whatever we do whether we want to behave in a bad manner or in a good way it is our choice nobody forces it to us it is our choice okay that you must remember so what do we choose will we choose the path of this woman or will we choose a better path okay and for sure हैन यहाँ के भन्दैछ यो जुन वुडपेकर लेडी को जुन सफरिङ छ हैन वुडपेकर लेडी नै भनौं न हैन or वुडपेकर वुमन त्यो ठोक्दा त्यो रुखमा ठोक्दा के इमेजिन बी जस्ट पेनफुल त्यो पाराले सोच्नु नै हो भने है it's like as if that bird is suffering भनेको जस्तो नि so यो वुडपेकर वुमन को जुन सफरिङ छ है यदि हामीले शेयर गरेनौ भने र हामी आफ्नो कन्जुसी कप्टीपनमा है if we stay we will be suffering in that same manner our suffering will be equal to that of that woodpecker woman okay so यहाँ चाहिँ के भन्नु खोजेको भन्दा चाहिँ so basically what the question being asked here is just ask yourself also तपाईले केही कुरा कसैलाई शेयर नगरी आफ्नोमा मात्र राख्यो रे do you think you will be happy that way just think about this do you think you'll be happy okay and for at least I can say with whatever years of life that I've lived that no we will not be happy you know and जहिले पनि हामीले शेयर गर्छौं हाम्रोमा चाहिँ बेसी होस् या कम्ती just that heart हाम्रो त्यो हार्ट ठीक हुनुपर्छ नि and if we share कम्ती भएर पनि it's okay मेरोमा कम्ती छ र के छ at least I can share that is having a big heart okay that is true generosity हैन अनि of course थुप्रो छ र तिमीले शेयर गर्ने त झन् राम्रो तिमीलाई तर I think it's more you know it's really important you know to understand that हामीले कम्पेयर गर्नु हो भने बेसी वालछेल छ र त्यो मान्छेले शेयर गरेको र कम्ती छ र पनि कुनै मान्छेले शेयर गर्दैछ भने which is more valuable or which is more precious to God's sight भनेर सोध्नु हो भने चाहिँ कम्ती छ र पनि शेयर गर्ने that will be more valuable okay so I think it's a beautiful wonderful poem that and the lesson yes like the poet said it is very contemporary 1800s मा लेखेको छ र पनि आजको एजमा पनि it is very much कस्तो छ it suits us हैन it's we can relate to it okay so that is the beauty of true literature no matter कुन समयमा हामी पढ्ने थियो it should still be relevant to us okay so yeah that is about it okay and also I wanted to add तपाईँले यो जुन मैले अघि कुरा भने यो सेयरिङको बारेमा, यो चाहिँ मैले त्यसै मेरो मनबाट भनेको मात्र होइन। ओके, researchers have proved that people who share, okay, they are more happier than people who don't share. Okay, so that's about it. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Thank you so much.